Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're talking about the DIOR Backstage collection, and a bunch of you have been asking me to review this. So here I am. I've been using it for a couple of days and I have some thoughts. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on the DIOR Backstage collection, then just keep on watching. So DIOR came out with this DIOR Backstage collection a couple of weeks ago. It released on the Dior.com site before it arrived on Sephora. So I was waiting for it to come onto Sephora before I purchased it. I think I went onto the DIOR site and the shipping was going to take like a really long time or something. And I thought by the time I get it, Sephora will get it and I'd rather just purchase it from there. So anyway, I ended up purchasing it off of Sephora. I've been playing around with it for a couple of days. So I purchased the contour and highlighting palette. I also got the glow face palette and I got the cool neutral eyeshadow palette. I also purchased the light brow palette and I also purchased the Airflash Radiance Mist. What I didn't purchase but have is the DIOR foundation in 1N, and this I got as a perk from Sephora. I think if you spent $35, you got this as a free gift and you could select your shade. So I select what I thought to be my shade, which I think is my shade. It's actually pretty good. So what I did today was I filmed myself kind of getting ready. So what I'm going to do is just sort of talk through it and talk about my thoughts on these products because I have been using them and playing around with them for the past couple of days. So without any further ado, let's get into this collection. So I think the most highly anticipated product out of this entire line was the foundation. This is the Face and Body Foundation. DIOR came out with 40 shades, and I have to say it was a little overwhelming, but thankfully a lot of people had put up reviews at that point. So I did my little YouTube search and I realized that I was either a 1N or a 0N because I heard that it had oxidized. So I was really curious to see for myself how this foundation would behave. So just to give you an idea of what 1N looks like, I'm just gonna swatch it. I mean, I think you'll see in my cutaways, when I apply it to my face, you'll see it, but there is 1N. It's fairly warm for a neutral shade. I think it's a little bit peachy, but I think it works fine on my complexion. I think it oxidized a teensy bit, but barely noticeable. This was something, a feedback that I had heard in a couple of reviews, and so I was really worried that it was going to really darken up. It really barely darkened up on my skin. Just a little bit. And in fact, if I hadn't heard that that was a problem for other people, I probably wouldn't have even noticed the slight shade change that I see between my jaw and my neck. So after trying it with a brush and with my fingers, I prefer using my fingers. So here you'll see me using it with my fingers. It spreads out very easily. It has a very thin consistency, but it doesn't actually feel watery. I find the texture of this to be not quite as watery as, let's say, the Makeup Forever Face and Body or the MAC Face and Body, which I've only actually tested in store, both of those actually. I find this to even be a little bit thicker than the Glossier Skin Tint. So I found it very easy to spread it around with my fingers, and I found that it also set very nicely. I didn't feel like it was wet for too long, and I was just kind of like moving the product around. And because this is a matte foundation and I have dry skin, I'm gonna be 45 soon, I really wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to make my skin look a little bit more aged, a little bit more crepey. It wasn't going to emphasize any of my lines. And so they tout this product to be able to be very buildable. You know, 1 layer for light, 2 layers for medium, 3 layers for full. So when I first tried this product, of course, I put 1 layer on and I was like, well, let's see how buildable it is. Then I put 2 layers on and I felt like that's when my skin started to look a little bit dry. I put 3 layers on just in parts where I felt like could use maybe some full coverage, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at that point. It just seemed a little bit too drying. You'll see here that I put another layer around my eyes where I have the most discoloration, and I feel like that evened out my skin tone enough, and I like kind of stopping there. I like kind of basically just having 1 layer all over my face and then 2 layers at most around my eyes, and kind of like leaving it there. So while this is buildable, I did feel like I got more coverage when I added more product on. I didn't like the effect that it was giving my skin. Now with that said, when I do put 2 layers over my eyes, I do find that by the end of the day, I feel like my under eyes look a little bit dry. I don't know it's a little bit like it's emphasizing my lines. I do feel like it sinks into my fine lines under my eyes a little bit, but that's at the end of the day. I feel like for most of the day, my eyes look pretty good. As for the rest of my face, so long as I kind of kept within that one layer parameter and I didn't put any more on, I think my skin looked really, really nice for the entire day. I feel like, yes, this is a very kind of like matte finish foundation, but I don't feel like it made my skin look dry, especially on my forehead where I have texture issues, or around here where I end up getting either kind of cakey or clumpy kind of issues around my nose and my upper lip. None of that happened. My chin looked good. So I definitely like this foundation with one layer, two at most. So because this foundation has this matte finish, I didn't find it necessary to have to set this foundation down. For the couple of times that I've used this, I've used my powder products right on top of it and it glides on perfectly. It blended out perfectly. So I don't feel like there's any tack or anything to this foundation. So the matte velvety finish of this foundation really lends itself to adding product on top without any problems whatsoever. So next I got the DIOR Backstage Brow Palette. This is in the shade 001 Light. It comes with 2 powders and 1 setting wax. I've never used a brow palette before, so I was like, why not? Why not start here? You'll see that I started with the lighter shade, the taupe shade, to fill in like the center part of my brow, but I quickly moved over to the dark taupe shade to kind of fill in the rest of my brow. And then on my left brow, my second brow, I just used the dark taupe all over. I didn't bother with the medium taupe shade or the lighter taupe shade. And then I took the spoolie end of the brush and I just rubbed it over the wax. I don't really know how you're supposed to use brow wax. Again, I've never used this before, so I just kind of ran it over the wax, picked some up on the spoolie, and then brushed it through my eyebrows. I don't know, let me know down below in the comment section how you're supposed to use brow wax, but it seemed to work fine. They definitely are a little bit more tamed. It's not like, it's just wax, so it's not like a crunchy gel or anything. But I think this palette did a really good job, and I'm excited to have my first brow palette. I think this is a nice option to the fiber brow gel I've been using and all those pencils that I always use. This is like a fun change. So let me go ahead and swatch these for you. These are very, very creamy powders. Very, very creamy. Almost like they have wax in them themselves. But there's the dark taupe and the taupe. And then next is the DIOR contour palette. So when I first opened up this palette, I was like, I think this is gonna be a little bit too dark for me, or like the shades are a little bit off. I thought that these contour palettes were a little bit too warm for my liking, but I used the light one here. You'll see in my footage here. I used that on my cheeks and I think it actually looks really, really nice. I think you definitely have to use a light hand. I used my Sonia G Sculpt 1 brush, which really blends product out beautifully. So I would definitely build this up. You know, if you have a similar skin tone to mine, I would definitely start light and build up to wherever you're comfortable, because these powders are very, very pigmented. They're very, very soft. So you can kind of apply a little bit too much accidentally very, very quickly. The 2 highlight powders on the top, I used obviously the light one. The deep one I think would be nice to kind of top my bronzer if I want a little bit of shimmer. So the 2 highlight powders have shimmer. The 2 contour palette powders are matte. And I think this highlight color is really nice. It's one of those brightening powders. It doesn't have a lot of shimmer. We will get to shimmer in a second. So I just really loved it. I put it kind of all over like the higher planes of my face, cheekbones, nose, my forehead, chin, to kind of just really bring those areas forward. And I think it did a really nice job. And the shimmer isn't a lot. So let me go ahead and swatch these for you. So here's the light and the dark highlighting powders. You can barely see the light on my arm. And then here's the light contour and the deep contour. And then next is the Glow Face Palette. This is the one with 2 strobe powders and 2 blushes. They all have a great deal of shimmer to them. Let me go ahead and swatch them. Here are the 2 strobe powders. So beautiful. And then here are the 2 blush shades. So you'll see here in my footage that I used the gold strobe powder for highlight, and then for blush, I went in with both shades. I used the pinker shade closer to my cheekbone, or I should say closer to the apples of my cheeks, and then I used the bronze blush towards like the back of my cheekbone, closer to my hairline, kind of like over my contour bronze area. I used my Anastasia Beverly Hills highlighting brush to apply the gold strobe powder, and I really liked it when I applied it, but when I ran my finger over it to kind of blend it in a little bit more, I found buffing it in further really made it look more seamless with the skin. It took away some of its reflective properties, but I feel like it looked a little bit more skin-like and a little bit more seamless. And then I decided to pick up the Cool Neutral palette. And this is the one with the more purpley tones. It comes with one primer and then it comes with 8 shadows. There are 3 shimmer shades, that's the middle row here, 3 matte shades, which is the bottom row here. And then next to the primer, they have this as a highlighter shade and this as a sculpting powder. The highlighter shade is a little shimmery, the sculpting powder is a little bit matte. So let's go ahead and swatch these. This is the silver highlighter shade. Here is Ombre, the sculpting powder. Here is Pink, the shimmer powder. These eyeshadows are so soft and so buttery. And then here is Lilac, Purple, Pink Matte. And then here is Mauve and Plum. So you'll see here that I used the Ombre sculpting powder, my Sonia G Worker 2 brush, and I just brushed it all over my lid. I then went in with the purple shimmer to kind of deepen out my outer corner. And then I took this silver highlighter color, I put that on the inner part of my lid to kind of highlight that area. I put it in the inner corner of my eye as well. And then I took the matte plum color, the darkest color in the palette. I took that on my Smudger 1 brush and I lined my lower lash line and part of my upper lash line. And then last but not least, this is the DIOR Airflash Radiance Mist. This is part of the Backstage Pro line, and this can be used as a primer or a setting spray. So I use this as a primer. I just sprayed it all over my face, and then I just sort of help it along. I use my fingers and I just sort of press it into my skin. It makes a very nice primer. I don't think that it necessarily moisturized my skin, which is the type of primers that I like, but this was really nice. It really smooths out your skin. I wouldn't go so far as to call it like pore filling or line filling, but it does a nice job kind of just smoothing over your skin. And as a setting spray, I think it's very, very nice. I think it does give your skin like a nice airbrushed effect. I really like it, but because it's aerosol, definitely be careful not to spray too close to your nose or mouth, or at least hold the can out very, very far. I got a little cavalier with my use of this bottle and I got way too close to my nose and mouth the other day, and I just kind of like inhaled it all, and it's not good. So anyway, don't do that. So that is how I achieved this look. I really like the quality of these powders, like these and this. These are all kind of very similar. They're very, very creamy. They're very soft, but they're not very powdery, which I find very interesting. Like I've used this quite a bit now, and there isn't like powder all over the palette. Same with the contour palette. You can see it's like, it looks pretty clean. The Glow face palette, which I believe is more of like a Baked Gelée formula, these definitely had like a little bit of kick up. There's a little bit of powder when I went in, especially to this pink blush shade. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed these products, and I think I enjoyed them a lot more than I thought I would. A bunch of you had requested me to review this, but I thought, why not? If you guys want to see it, I'll go ahead and review it. And the quality is really nice. And when I saw the packaging at first, I thought it was going to be really chintzy, but it's nice. It doesn't feel cheap. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comment section. Subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in my next video.